ソト選手の移籍に関する情報で連日賑わうメジャーリーグですが、最低ライン6億ドルで球団を選ぶ段階に入ったようです。しかしながら、このチャンネルでは何度も取り上げている金額の妥当性については疑問が残っているようです。大谷選手が築いた7億ドルという数字に比べれば少し下がるものの、一人の野手としての数字としては圧倒的な金額です。この金額を踏まえてどのチームが適しているのか、はたまたソト選手を複数のチームで所有すればいいなど面白い意見も出ていました。今日はソト選手に関連する話題を中心にお届けします。今後も現地番組を翻訳してお届けしていきますので、お見逃しのないよう今のうちにチャンネル登録をお願いいたします。
The answer yonder could be, let Juan Soto play for every team throughout the season. You know, one week he's a Yankee, another week he's a Dodger, another week he's an Oakland A, but I doubt that he'll go for that. At the same time, for the teams that do miss out on Juan Soto, where can they go? Give me some corner outfield alternatives that maybe these teams that don't end up with Juan Soto, they could begin to pursue.
Well, I'm hopeful that the owners will tell the GMs, hey, you still have a little bit of coin to go spend in the offseason. And there's a lot of examples, right? There's a lot of guys that you can go get. And we can start with Teoscar Hernandez. I mean, this guy was unbelievable, hit 33 home runs. Where would the Dodgers have been if Teoscar Hernandez was
probably
available
not in the World
May
Series
and June, right? Yep. There was a lot of guys banged up. Well, guess what? Teoscar Hernandez was pivotal to the Dodgers season being able to go win a 98 games because this guy was protecting, if not all four of those guys. Anthony Santander, for me, is a guy that's very tricky, right? He's a switch hitter. He's a guy that hits the long ball, can still play a really good outfield. He's got an absolute cannon, and he's been there. He's played in big games. The World Baseball Classic with a big home run in 2023. He's done it. Tyler O'Neill, for me, is a guy that's tricky, right? He led the Boston Red Sox in slug and home runs. He crushes left-handers. I think this guy is a weapon. Look, you look at Tyler O'Neill, he was only making $5.85 million. How about Jerickson Profar? He hit it in a big yard. He's a switch hitter. He's got the smile. He's got the edge on him. Playing left field, he can play a little right. He can do it all for you. This guy, nobody wanted him in 2024. He was playing for $1 million. $1 million. There is hope for other teams. How about Jock Peterson? Somebody needs to have this guy. At times during the year, people were thinking, he's got to play every day. I know he was smashing against right-handers, but this guy has done it. He's played over 80 games in the postseason, so this guy understands the aura. He understands what it takes. He understands the pressure to be able to succeed and deliver. I think all of these five guys right here, they've done it, and they've proven and they've answered the bell that whoever gets them, they're in for a bargain because it's going to be coins compared to what they're going to have to pay Soto.
Yeah, so these are the numbers that these players and their contract in 2024 were playing under. Now, these numbers, especially in the for most of them, they want multiple years and they want a bump in salary, but they're not going to get $600 million over 10 to 12 years.
What is Jerickson Profar going to be worth, right? Is he going to be worth 10
He's
to
definitely
15
worth more than $1 million.
Okay, 15. But is that better than 50 a year?
That's true.
For a guy hitting me 24 and playing every day? A guy like Anthony Santander, a guy like Teoscar Hernandez, who we saw now in the postseason do big things for the Dodgers.
Yeah.
For me, it makes all the sense to go get a guy like that and then go fill up some other holes.
If you're one of those players on that graphic there, are you basically saying once Juan Soto makes a decision, then my market, then the conversation surrounding me and myself and my family, that will start to take front and center?
Rodolfo, yes and no. I think when you look at a guy like Juan Soto, he's on his own. Right, he's in deep waters. These players aren't in such deep waters. These guys are in a little bit more of a warmer weather type of players where their money and their line of years is going to be completely different. Right. But again, those teams need to call. And right now, the only concern is on that big horse in Soto.
Let's begin with Juan Soto and his free agency decision that figures to alter the landscape of Major League Baseball. According to The Athletic, Juan Soto has begun the process of mulling over the offers and eliminating teams, and that the bids that he's received have reached at least $600 million and beyond. Now, we do know that the teams publicly linked to Soto are the Yankees, the Mets, the Blue Jays, the Dodgers. However, it's not clear yonder which team or teams are the leader in the clubhouse, what they've made. Where do you want to go first here?
That's the risk, right? And I think if you're a GM or if you're an owner, you're thinking, okay, we're at 600 if that's true. It's a lot of coin, and I have to think about what the future lies for a guy like Soto, or getting a guy like Soto. Doesn't necessarily line up with the rest of that roster. Soto is on a combined different level, kind of like Shohei. If you're going to give him that type of coin, you're expected to have a great
26
return.
years old.
26 years old. You're thinking this deal is going to be over 10 years long.
At least.
And for me, it's just which team is more suitable to have a guy like Soto. The problem that I have with this Roflo is the type of teams that are in on this right now. And the reasons I say that is because if you don't get a guy like Juan Soto, it's not the end of the world. There's still many options out there. And some teams may even say, I don't necessarily think it's worth that money or that player to go get him for so long in a period of year. You can, for me, the quantity over quality is more important. I'd much rather have that money and get 5-6 quality players that are going to get me to the World Series in the next 5 years 2 or 3 times, or have a chance to win it, than to per se having an incredible player for the next 12 years.
Well, I'm glad you bring that up, because we've compiled the list. There's 20 players that have had a contract in excess of $250. So there's some other great names on this list. Aaron Judge, Machado, Tatis, Trey Turner, Xander Bogaerts, Nolan Arenado, Rafi Devers, Garrett Cole, Mike Trout. They haven't won a World Series.
And the reason for that, because it locks you up to going to go get more guys, right? Like the Dodgers they're an outlier. They're the unicorn of our game right now, where they're getting 3 or 4 guys and they can still go get more guys.
They're playing fantasy baseball.
Right. It's completely different. When you've got a team, per se, like Toronto, Boston, right, the Yankees, they're a little bit more limited in that source. You're only going to get that player, and then does it open up the windows to go get more players in that status?
I'm glad you mentioned the Toronto Blue Jays, because you said something interesting in our production meeting. You think that the Blue Jays need Juan Soto. Of all those teams that we mentioned publicly linked, you think the Blue Jays maybe need him the most?
And I think it makes the most sense because it's one team in one country. Right, you understand the buyback you're going to get for a player like Juan Soto in one country that loves that team, the Toronto Blue Jays. It's immenseful, right? It's just like saying Shohei Ohtani and what he brings to our game, not only here, but internationally in Japan. I see it that certain way as well. Now, the winning side of it all, you've got a one go-to go-get guy, right? You got Juan Soto, you got Bo Bichette, you got Vlad, you got Varsho in center field, you got Kirk catching. Now, all of a sudden, you can spin the baseball just enough. You can go get a couple other guys. Now you're looking at yourself by saying, hey, we have a chance here to compete in the American League. And if we saw something in the postseason, Roflo, we saw that the American League was a little softer than the National League. So it felt like anybody at any given moment could get to the World Series. Why not the Toronto Blue Jays if it makes all the sense of the world financially?
On the flip side, you think if the New York Yankees miss out on Juan Soto, and it's not the end of the world. How come?
I don't think it's the end of the world. First of all, I personally think that the Yankees need a lot more than just Juan Soto. Look, they struggled in their bullpen all year. They struggled with their rotation staying healthy. I felt, for me, the Yankees, even though they got to the World Series, it was a great year for the Yankees. But for me, they need to answer the bell when it comes to athleticism. Their defense was a falter at times. And for me, besides Jazz and Volpe, who else is going to steal bags for that team? And the game right now, you need speed. There's no question about it. Not just a home run, but getting on base and scoring runs.
Well, if obviously Juan Soto's decision is going to be one that will be headline making, but there are going to be teams that will be left disappointed. Man, it's been quite a few months for the Los Angeles Dodgers. They win the World Series at Yankee Stadium. Then, after spending $1 billion last year in free agency, they've already spent over $250 million in free agency. We're not even at the winter meetings. Earlier today on Hot Stove, Matt Vasgersian offered these thoughts on the Blue World Order.
2 things on that. First of all, the Dodgers are turning into the Harlem Globetrotters, and the rest of the league is the Washington Generals. Really. I mean, they're putting together a roster of not just stars, super duper stars here. And it's going to put a target squarely on their back. If people in San Francisco and San Diego didn't like the Dodgers before, imagine the animosity directed their way now. Second take that I have on that is that I forgot what I was going to say.
It happens. I have been there. So, keeping up with the Kardashians when it's all said and done people will look at that as the signal, as the end of Western civilization. So with a tip of the cap to the Kardashians. Let's do keeping up with the Dodgers NL West division. All right, let's go team by team here. How do the other teams in this division compete? And let's start with the San Diego Padres, a team that beat the Dodgers in the postseason a couple years ago, and yonder they had them on the ropes this year.
Well, yeah, a team that was very feared in that NL West, right? You've heard in the past, even Dave Roberts saying, we felt like this was the World Series.
Yeah.
We felt like the Padres had the upper hand.
Hernandez said the Padres were the best team in baseball.
Yeah, and I think for me, they need pitching, right? I think with Joe Musgrove being out for a majority of the year. Tommy John, they need Sasaki. I think that's the go-to guy. They need maybe a guy like Max Fried. They need to figure out the outfield situation, who's going to play left for them, and how about shortstop, right? You had Xander Bogaerts play a little bit. You had Kim play a little bit. Who's going to be the guy?
Kim is a free agent.
He's a free agent. So I think for me, the catching, the shortstop, and who's pitching will be a majority key for the Padres.
All right, we got this tweet here regarding Roki Sasaki. Several industry sources believe the Padres are in a strong position to land Japanese ace Roki Sasaki. And obviously, he is linked to the Dodgers because Shohei Ohtani, but Yu Darvish certainly carries a lot of weight here. Dylan Cease, I believe he's going into his walk here. Michael King was a revelation coming over for the Yankees. You add Sasaki to this, yonder, and this is quite a formidable rotation.
Yeah, I really like the young guys too, and Randy Vasquez and Matt Waldron. I think being able to pitch last year in some meaningful innings will be huge for the Padres moving forward in the future. But Sasaki is a guy that now you slot him into that number two. Michael King, Darvish was phenomenal when he came back. I think this guy, Roki Sasaki, is going to be very special. And if the Padres get him, I would say it's a 50-50 chance. It's either the Padres or the Dodgers, right? Those are the two guys and the two horses that are trying to get this guy right now. But whoever does get him, he's going to be phenomenal.
With all the Soto rumors swirling, which outcome would be worse for a Yankees fan? Soto to the Red Sox or Soto to the Mets?
Nicky, that's a good question. What do you think, Yonder?
I would say the Red Sox, right? Because they're on the division. The Mets, you might see them in the World Series. Okay, win-win. We get to the World Series. Now we'll battle it out. But I think if he goes to the Red Sox, Juan Soto will be doing a lot of damage against that pitching for the Yankees. Short portion left. It's just a landmine for him. He's going to be fantastic for the Boston Red Sox. Wherever he goes, he's going to be elite. And he's going to be elite for a long time. But for me, if he goes to the Red Sox, that's a dagger.
I think, obviously, it's bad either way, but I think it's the New York Mets because you'd have to see him play right there in your city for 81 regular season games. Not to mention if they make it to the postseason, not to mention he's dominating the back page of the tabloids, so I'll go with the New York Mets. Our next caller, Vince from Hoboken, what do you got?
$600 million for Juan Soto? Come on. What do you think? Is he even the best overall offensive player in the majors? Who you got between Soto, Ohtani, and Judge? I'm going to hang up and listen.
All right, thank you, Vince. Good job. What do you think?
Vince was
so who is the more complete offensive player? Is it Soto, Ohtani, or Judge?
I still like Ohtani. I think what Ohtani brings to the table is incredible. He can hit leadoff. He can steal 50 bags. He can hit 50 home runs. He's scoring runs. Look, in the postseason, we saw not the best of Ohtani, and yet he was still very productive. With runners in scoring position, he was a menace. He was incredible. But then the guy got on base every single time, and pretty much when he was on first, he was at third 2 or 3 pitches later. This guy can do it all. I think for me, Shohei Ohtani takes the crown.
You know, it's funny because when you compare, why am I talking to this thing like it's a real mic? When you compare those three guys, Soto is the one that had the best postseason in 2024. And he's got the better track record in postseason. Obviously, this was Ohtani's first. But I'm going to go, I agree with you. I think it's Ohtani in the fact that he can steal your bases, he can hit for average, and he can go deep as well. I'll go Shohei.
When you have 2 or 3 guys hitting 7th, 8th, 9th, and the other team is already thinking about when Ohtani's coming up, that tells you what's happening with that lineup. That's how good Ohtani is.
All right, while you were watching something else, the Juan Soto free agency sweepstakes took another, I guess, quarter step. Let's go to social media for some of this information. Our friend Ken Rosenthal, Juan Soto bidding reaches $600 million. Sources say process of eliminating teams underway.
Yeah, I bet.
All right, a couple other people confirming that. And the Juan Soto Rumors album continues to play this morning with this latest news. So if in fact they're weeding out the also ran bidders, and that everybody's above 600 that's being taken seriously now.
Wow.
And if it's being, kind of confirmed by various reliable media sources.
Oh, yeah.
It appears pretty clear that we're at 600 million now. That's the new mark, right? It was Betts and Tatis and those guys signing for the mid-threes, Lindor. Now we're at 6.
And it's significant because it is a position player. So, you can't look at Shohei Ohtani as a position player. He's a two-way guy. You paid him for pitching, and you paid him for hitting. So let's really start this chart at Mike Trout and go down. The argument for Trout, why his number's where it's at, is it wasn't a free agent number. That's what most people will say. Mookie was an extension as well. But Judge was a free agent number, Machado was a free agent number, and Lindor. So you look at those numbers, and Harper. He's leapfrogging everybody with this offer. And Carlos Baerga, remember, 3 weeks ago, said it was $660 by the Mets. And everybody's like, come on, Carlos. Carlos is always dialed in. And maybe that offer was thrown out there early, and the Mets just sat there and said, let everybody come to us.
Dude, I still, to quote my soundboard, I can't believe it. I can't believe we're at $600 million
I can't
for a 26-year-old outfielder. He's 26. Soto, is that what? He's 26. I mean, I get what you're buying, right? This guy's an elite hitter, generationally talented hitter. $660 for somebody not named Ohtani? That's a lot of rent money.
Landlord don't need all that rent money.
So, I mean, I just can't believe we're there, man. And look, it's good for everybody. It's good for Soto. It's good for business. It's good for everybody. It's just a staggering amount of dough.
It is. And remember when we got hit with Ohtani, it was like, what? 700? That took a little while to absorb. But you got used to it.
There's a lot of gags going around on social media about deferred payments now, right? Because the Dodgers have made this such a thing.
Well, that's the new sabermetric thing.
So is that going to be a part of this?
This is Billy Ball part 2. I don't know.
Yeah, we don't know yet.
Don't know. But that's one team that was doing that. Although if it's Toronto, Ohtani started this big wave because he said, I know my number's big, but I can't win without other players.
Right.
So I'm going to defer. Plus, he was making all that money off the field anyway.
Yeah.
So he could do that. I don't know. We're in different territory.
Unbelievable, man.
具体的な金額が出てきたこともあり、大谷選手との比較にフォーカスする内容が多かったですね。記録的なシーズンを送り続けていることももちろん要因ではありますが、ここまで圧倒的支持を集めているんだなと実感しまして、ドジャースもテオスカー・ヘルナンデス選手との契約延長の最終詳細を詰める段階という報道も出ています。このファン外競争局の終焉はいつになるのか楽しみに見ていきましょう。それでは次回の動画でお会いしましょう。さようなら。